So I was in my 40s. It was in the 90s.
Okay.
Here I am. I watched Schindler's List against my father's wishes. Even then, he didn't want me to see it. He wanted me to feel like I should know anything. I saw Schindler's List, and I heard that Steven Spielberg started the Shoah Foundation, which was archiving survivors of the Holocaust.
Yeah.
And so I contacted the foundation, Shoah Foundation, which is housed at USC. And he said to me, if you can get your parents to speak, that's what we're doing. So I went to my mother and father, and I looked at them and I said, I saw Schindler's List. I heard about the Shoah Foundation. I really would like you to speak because they could do a video of your lives. What happened? I remember my mother and father looked at me and they said, we don't want to. We're trying to put that in the past.
Right.
That's not something we ever want to think about anymore. That's behind us. We can't focus on it. I had my two little daughters. They were probably 5 years old, 5 and 6 maybe. I said, if you don't talk about it, those little girls will never know what happened with their grandparents. And the way my parents were, like they're such special people and so bright. I looked at it and said, okay, we'll do it. Which couldn't have been a harder thing for them to do.
Right.
Like I said to you, I don't know how you put your head on a pillow. I have little things happen in my life. I can't sleep at night.
Yeah.
I think about what my mother and father saw, losing their everyone and being in a camp and doing what they had to go through. It was horrific. So ends up they do the video.
The video is, you could find it, but is it like, it's an interview?
So there's a 2-hour video of my mother.
Okay.
There's a 2-hour video of my father that appears in all the Holocaust museums. And I'm sitting in my home in Manhattan Beach. I've got a beautiful big home. Everything's going great in my life. And I put the video in. And to tell you, and you can't put it to words, for the first time in your life, you see your mother talking about what it was like being a 16-year-old girl when the Nazis came in and took her father away, who was a doctor, eliminated him right away. She goes with her mother, her brother, and her grandmother to Auschwitz. And you stand in front of Joseph Mengele, who was one of the worst criminals ever. And she sees her mother, brother, and grandmother go this way. And my mother goes the other way. She's 16 years old, never to see them again. And what my mother had to experience. And I'm watching this. She's always joked around with me. My mother was never serious. Whenever I asked her questions, she'd always laugh it off. She didn't want to talk about it. Mm-hmm. And here I am now hearing her talk about what really happened. It overwhelmed me. It bothered me a lot. And then my dad, same thing, a brilliant guy. And that's what made me amazed about my dad, because he was 19 when they took him away. How he was so smart to come to this country at 35 and make 16 patents when at 19 was the furthest your education went. And so when I saw that video, it bothered me enough that I wanted more, so I wanted to hire a writer to do their life story. And I found this woman who I can't say enough great things about. Mm-hmm. And she spent over 100 hours interviewing my mother and my father. And she was incredible. She fell in love with my parents. And the book she wrote was spectacular. And I didn't want to do it as a book, just so you know. I just wanted a manuscript. So we have a very small family. I've never met a grandparent. I've never met an uncle.
Right.
I've never met anyone, because they're all gone.
Yeah.
So I wanted to just have like a memoirs, a manuscript for my children, and my sister had 3 kids. So that's why I did it. But 15 years later, the writer who did the book gave it to one of her good friends who's a notable writer. She read it. She goes, you need to publish this book. This is an unbelievable story. So she wrote a book proposal, which we sent out, and I had 4 publishers that wanted to do it. And I chose the publisher that did the Diary of Anne Frank, Valentine Mitchell, because I thought that would be the best people to do the book. Yeah. And then, the book came out, I think 18 or 19. And I thought, who's going to be interested in reading about my parents? No one cares. And I ended up, where I have a home out in the desert, I bought 50 copies of the book and I donated it. Next thing I know, I have people coming up to me, hugging me, thanking me. I bought 8 copies. I gave it to my son, told him you need to read this book. Then they had a book club. 75 people showed up. And then just organically, this book kept growing and growing and growing, to the point where it's now the second bestseller behind the Diary of Anne Frank. Oxford, which is the highest level of prestige, that recognized this book as one of the top books. And I'm very proud of that. It's something I never really thought about, that wasn't the reason I did it. I just did it originally to have a manuscript.
Right.
And now it's in a book. And ultimately, with your help, I'm going to find a good producer and make a movie out of this thing.